My name is Venkatesh Hariharan, and I'll be speaking about knowledge commons as a source of collaborative innovation. In the morning, we heard Devin speak about the commons as an actor and why it is increasingly gaining ground. I will try to offer some hard proof points of how the commons is becoming an important mode of knowledge creation, and why, from a public policy perspective, the knowledge commons model of knowledge creation needs to be taken into consideration when deciding IP policies for the country. Typically, most policies in terms of IP till date have been structured around the idea that it's the producers of or large corporations which create innovations, or the individual inventor. Now, if you see the last 10-15 years of the open source and the free software communities, you see new model of innovation emerging where people are voluntarily creating large bodies of knowledge. For example, if you take the code base of Linux, for example, and how it has been growing over the last 10 years, or you take large bodies of knowledge like Wikipedia. So the question is, what is driving these models of knowledge creation? If you look at technology areas like supercomputing, for example, you cannot have a better example of innovation than the supercomputing kind of an area, because that is really high cutting edge technology. If you look at the top 500 supercomputers of the world, and if you try to do a statistical search on that top500.org website, can you guess how many of those top 500 supercomputers are today running on Linux? 94. Pranesh is like hyper optimistic. So out of the top 500 supercomputers, 446 of the top 500 supercomputers are today running on Linux. And if you look at the last 4-5 years, the last most the proprietary supercomputer that was there was the NEC Earth Simulator. And over the last 4 years, the top 3 and the top gradually over a period of time, the cost of computing per terabyte or petabyte or gigaflop has been coming down so drastically that, and it has been primarily driven by the fact that you have a lot of commodity hardware that has come up as compared to the proprietary RISC hardware systems. You have the x86 commodity hardware, and the x86 commodity hardware combined with free and open source software, the Linux kernel, and a lot of supercomputing tools, which people can now freely string together. 2 years ago, the Eka supercomputer was created in Pune by people from the Tata group. That became the third fastest supercomputer in the world. And that kind of an innovation would not have been possible in a country like India, where we do not have that history of investing heavy amounts of money in vertical hardware and software systems. Because we were able to take commodity hardware, and because we were able to take open source software and combine these together, we were able to create that supercomputer. So now you have innovation models, which is one of the greatest models that is coming up is the open collaborative innovation model. I'll explain a little bit about that. But before we do that, maybe a comparison between the previous model, the closed proprietary model of innovation, and the open model might be of some relevance. Professor Eric von Hippel is a professor of innovation at MIT, and he has been studying open source software and innovation for the last 10 years. And he has come to the conclusion that the open model of innovation is desirable of public policy encouragement, because whenever the innovation is open, it leads to larger social welfare. The example of Linux, for example, or the example of supercomputing is probably one of the best at this point in time. Eric von Hippel wrote a book called Democratizing Innovation, and what he said is that because the source code is open, and because anybody can take the source code, modify it, and freely share that knowledge with others, it actually leads to more innovation. And some of you who are interested in reading this further would be happy to know that this book is a freely downloadable book, and if you go to the web and just search for Democratizing Innovation, you can download the entire book, and there's an enormous amount of evidence for how open source leads to innovation. So let's look at closed innovation versus collaborative innovation. Typically, the closed innovation model says that the smart people in our field work for us. The collaborative innovation model says that we need to work with smart people anywhere in the world. And if you look at the industrial era where knowledge was basically organized and the creators of knowledge were basically housed inside large corporate entities, a lot of the reason for that was the cost of communication was extremely high. Because if you brought people together under one single roof, it's much easier to communicate with each other. But today you have the internet and it's so much easier to communicate with people around the world. In fact, sometimes I'm surprised, I'm on mailing lists and groups like Flickr and where I share photographs with others. And there are groups which are dedicated only to yellow colored flowers and only to pink colored flowers, and each of these groups has like thousands of people. Now, if it was not for the internet, that kind of a possibility would just not have existed. So the ability to slice and dice and create communities over the internet is leading to the ability to reach out to smart people anywhere in the world. The earlier model used to say that to profit from R&D, you had to create it yourself and you had to ship it yourself, which is where you see a lot of the proprietary software companies having a very hard time adjusting to the open source model. But in the open source model community, we say that external R&D can create significant value. Innovation and the best ideas can come from anywhere. We need to be able to take those innovations, bring them into the products that we create, and then ship it out. Because at the end of the day, customers don't create where the innovation is created. What they care for is, does this technology work as it is supposed to work? There is also the model that it says that if we discover it ourselves, we can market it.